What's going on, guys? So in the world of stabilization blocks, basically blocks like the ones you're looking at in front of you, things have gotten pretty intense with the folks over at Weighsafe introducing their own now called the Flapjack. The Flapjack essentially accomplishes the exact same thing as the Andersen trailer block jack, or jack block, but in a different way, mainly because this one is designed to be easily stowable, very compact, and it actually achieves the same numbers. So they're both made very, very well. I've used the Andersen jack blocks for quite some time. I did a torture test on these when I first got them, and it survived the torture test. The one I used survived the torture test with no problems at all, even under some pretty crazy destructive loads and even attempting to try to destroy it. It looked mangled, but it still was able to support a tremendous amount of weight. On the other hand, the Weighsafe is very new to the market, so we haven't had a chance to really torture test this thing. This again is called the Flapjack. It's collapsible, has the same 6,000 pound rating, lifetime warranty. So there's a lot of really, really good claims here, but can this really support the type of weight and load that you can subject the Andersen trailer jack block to? Now, this is a torture test, so please commit those words to memory because I'm going to be torturing both of these. I'm going to be using them outside of how they are intended to be used just to see how these things hold up under extreme abuse. The first test we're going to do is going to be one that is going to be more of a practical test, just to see if they're capable of withstanding a tremendous amount of downward force. And we're going to subject them both to the same tests, just so we're being unbiased and fair here. Quick update, both of these were provided to me by my channel sponsor, eTrailer.com, so you can go to their website and purchase either of these. A lot of people probably already have this one, but they may be on the fence about this one until they're actually able to see how it performs. That said, let's kick this off. Now, a torture test would not be appropriate without something to torture them with. And in front of me, I have the torturer. So we're going to be utilizing my John Deere 50G excavator actually as the torturer in this specific test. And we're going to be doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and I think most people know these are not designed to work with an excavator. These are designed to work underneath your scissor jacks or your leveling systems on your RVs or your tongue jack or really any jack platform, and something that allows you not to have to extend your levelers so far or your stabilizer jacks. So let's get the Flapjack put together real quick. Basically, we're going to pop these off. These have magnets in them, and the magnets are going to come into play here in a second. You open this like that. We'll put the bottom one on first. This just kind of pops into these grooves. Because these collapse, of course, they'll take a little bit more effort to put them together versus something like that, but they take up a much smaller footprint, which is really nice. And now we are put together, and as you can see, we're virtually at the same height. This one recesses in a little bit, mainly because it's designed to cradle the landing pad or your leveler like that, whereas this one is just flat on top, and it's grooved a little bit to prevent anything from slipping off of it. But we have them both set up now, and the first test we're going to do to both of them is a compression test. And when I say compression, I am going to try to apply as much downward pressure as I can to both of these. Now let me show you why the downward pressure is going to be a little more extreme than some might think. Okay, so even though the John Deere 50G is not a full-size or even a mid-size excavator, it's considered a compact excavator. It is definitely on the heavier end of compact excavators. They have like 4 models that are smaller and lighter than this. This is considered a 5-ton unit. Operating weight, as it sits right now, though, is going to be closer to about 12,500 to 13,000 pounds, mainly because I have a very, very heavy 36-inch wide bucket on the front, along with a really, really thick custom-made butter bar attached to it. I also have the longer arm on this, so this is able to reach a little bit further out and dig a little deeper or go a little higher. I have the blade on the back, which I think is kind of standard on it, but there are some options on this one, specifically the fact that it's a cabbed version that make this one heavier. Now, with the blade on the back, once I put that blade down and I lift, I'm not just lifting the tracked portion of the tractor. I'm actually going to be lifting to the point to where the blade is going to be the only part of the excavator touching touching the ground other than the bucket pressing down on these two products. So this is going to be pretty intense. And again, the bucket by itself weighs about 400 pounds. So it's the weight of the bucket plus the energy that I'm going to be pushing down. And we're probably going to be close to about 5,000 pounds worth of downward force when everything is said and done. So this is not an easy test for something like this. And I'm not going to be coming down directly on it because it's very hard to gauge if you're applying perfect vertical downward pressure versus some type of an angle. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Weighsafe holds up compared to the Andersen jack block. We know the Andersen can do it because I've torture tested that one already, but the FlapJack from Weighsafe is yet to be tested. So let's kick this thing off. Okay, let's get everything started up. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to spin the cab around so I can show you what the shovel looks like once we put that down, or the blade. I keep calling it a shovel, but it's actually a blade. I'm going to put that down, and I'm actually going to push it down a little further than just ground contact, to the point the tracks actually start to lift up a little bit. Okay, so now we know that the minute the front tracks come off the ground, we are resting all the weight on the back blade as well as the bucket itself, which will be resting on the two different products. So we're going to spin back around, and I'm doing this on a flat concrete pad. That way, you know, there's no bias towards, you know, the material that's underneath it possibly compressing. Okay, so I figured the best way to do this, to give myself enough room around each one, would be to put them on their own pad, which I've done. And these are the Mighty pads. So I actually got these from the folks over at Mighty. They're 2 inches thick, and they withstand like 80,000 pound crush force each. They're crazy. And these are designed to be outrigger pads for like cranes and other things that need a flat surface to be able to put their outriggers on. So the first one we're gonna do is going to be the jack block. You see I have the bucket curled up a little bit. The reason why is because that rounded edge underneath it, part right there, is what I want to apply right towards the center. I could actually start by doing it flat because that rounded portion may actually cause problems early on. So the first thing we're going to do is make contact with the jack block. Okay, so we have the tracks off the ground now. Okay. Now onto the flapjack. We have the tracks off the ground again. Both of them are seeming to hold fine at this point. Now I'm gonna slam into this one. Okay, now I'm gonna slam into this one. So far, both seem to be holding up well. Let's do that a few more times on this one. Sliding back a little bit. Hitting them to the point that the tracks are actually coming off the ground. One, two, three. Okay, I see the edge of the jack block starting to get pretty damaged. I'm going to do 3 hard hits on the flapjack now. Sure that it's going to hit flat on both of them. Right there. I'm going to start about 3 feet up. Take a look at them real quick. Okay, so first, the jack block, and if you have any doubt on how much downward pressure that is, it's actually compressing the edges in where I'm hitting it. And steel, I'm guessing maybe from the back of the bucket, is magnetically attaching here. So jack block has some damage. You can see where the edge is kind of pushing down a little bit. It is absolutely still 100% functional. All right, got some steel buildup here as well. Okay, so the magnet is broke, which, I mean, kind of makes sense. Don't know if both magnets are, if it's just that one. Let's see. Nope, bottom magnet's intact. So the top magnet's broken. Bottom one's intact. The next test is going to utilize the rounded part of the bucket, so it's definitely going to be a little bit more intense. See, I can't actually get that back on there anymore because the magnet's broken. It's a strong magnet. There we go. All right, so we're back in business. No crazy damage to this. They actually, if you think about it, have very similar damage because this one has some plastic deforming around the outside of it. The magnets look to be intact, but there's a little damage to the structure. This one has 0 damage to the structure. A couple little gouges, but very small, but the magnet's broken. So now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna take this part of the bucket right here, this rounded part, which is going to apply a lot of pointed energy right towards the very center, a lot more so than this flat part right here, which was spreading that energy out. So we're going to do the same test, but we're going to do it on the rounded part of the bucket, which is going to definitely present itself as more of a challenge for these things to survive through because the energy is not being spread out as much. So let's hop in the tractor and start hitting these things. And this is going to be far more pressure on these things. So let's start with the jack block again. Right there in the middle. Pressing down on it. Let's do that 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Let's move over over to the Flapjack. Okay. 1, 2, 1 more, and then we'll get out and look. 3. Okay, I see it deforming a little bit because it's dragging slightly. You can probably see what you can probably see it right there. I still have all the weight on it, and it straightened itself out as soon as I took the weight off. Okay, so this one, the jack block shows really no damage at all. I can see where I was putting the weight, which was right in this area, exactly where we wanted it. Now on here, I kind of felt like I heard something that was a crack, but nothing cracked. It's more the pieces of the magnet. You know, I don't see any damage really. It did do a little bit of a twisting effect, only because when the bucket went down, it drug it forward a hair. But nothing that would make this thing inoperable at all. I mean, it's perfectly back in its upright position the way it should be. Now we're going to do the same test, but we're going to be slamming into them this time. So we're about 3 feet up. It's 1, 2, 3. And I only stop once the tracks come off the ground. Now this one's going to be interesting because it slides a little bit more than the jack block. So, okay. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Now the next test is probably going to do one of them in. Probably dump the dirt out. And that is going to be the blade test. So we're going to take the blade and we're going to press it down right in the center of both of these. Now this is never going to be a real world test because you should never have a scenario where you do this with an RV. But we're going to take the blade, have the blade pointing completely down towards the center, and we're going to see if it survives or if it cuts in half. All right, we have the tracks off the ground on the Andersen. I have a feeling this is what's going to be the killer of the Flapjack. Okay, here we go. Wow. I got all of the weight on it right now. So much so, watch, as I pull it off, you'll hear the excavator come back on the ground. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to drop it on there. Ready? 3 feet. Wow, I actually saw it bounce off of the top of the jack block. What do you think is going to happen to the Flapjack? Okay, let's get this lined up. It's going to be a tough one. It could very well break. Wow. Now, inevitably, like most RVers, you're going to have your hands full while you're carrying one of these one day. and you're going to drop it. You want to know that it can withstand the drop. Now, we all know that the FlapJack is going to fall apart because it has 3 different components to it, so I've taped it up, you know, just in case this is how you're carrying it. One thing I noticed here, though, this little corner was buckling a little bit. It's probably from the dragging. But again, you might inevitably drop the block. So, you know, we need to test for this, and we need to test for it in a very accurate way that reflects the type of drop people might normally experience whenever carrying these. So we're going to set them in the bucket. Okay, so you know you're walking from your storage compartment to set up your blocks, or you're walking back to your storage compartment and you lose your grip and you just don't know what's going to happen, and you happen to be 10 feet off the ground. Okay, so there are some of you who may, you know, be carrying them 12 feet off the ground or higher. We definitely want to replicate what that might be like, because if you accidentally drop one, you want to know that these things will survive, right? Or hopefully. Okay, so once again, we have them both here in front of us. Honestly, that looks kind of crazy. It looks like teeth mark. That's where we were pressing down on it with the very front leading edge of the bucket. Definitely bit into a bit. From the inside, the only thing that looks a little different is that the areas where the magnets are look like they've been pressed into the surface. But aside from that, nothing crazy. All right, jack block. Some of our tape came off over here. See right here where the tape broke. I'm looking for any signs of broken plastic though. That's definitely an impact point. This is crazy. So that's where the leading edge of the bucket was pressing into it. And even on the flat edge here, there's more damage to this flat surface than there is to this entire surface right here. That's pretty crazy. They both, though, are holding up very, very well. So yeah, at the end of the day, if you're looking at either of these products, they should hold up for what you plan on using them for. The big difference here is the amount of real estate that the different products take up whenever you're stowing them. The FlapJack from Weighsafe takes up very little space because it all compacts into a very small form. There are a few steps though whenever you're setting it up versus the Andersen. If you have space for the Andersen, you just pull one out, you put it underneath, and you're ready to go. So that's really the big difference. Takes up a lot more space, a little bit more convenient from a setup perspective. Takes up a lot less space, requires some steps to set it up completely. But I think this test definitely shows that they're both built very, very well. And some folks might have thought, especially with the blade pointing down on it, that it would crack, that the plastic or this material would essentially start splitting and it would catastrophically fail. But neither of them failed under this extreme testing. They all withstood the weight needed. Both products built very, very well. I don't think you'll go wrong with either one of them. And to me, even the point test where I actually put the leading edge of the blade on both of these truly shows that even if the weight isn't perfectly balanced, these things still hold a tremendous amount of weight. So yeah, pretty happy with the results. To be honest with you, 100% honest and clear, I thought the FlapJack would fail some of these tests. I thought when it started sliding forward on the pad, you can see how it was sliding forward in some areas. I thought that was going to be the end of it, that the whole thing would just collapse under. Are a couple little spots where you can see that it began to buckle a little bit. Really, this is the only one that I think shows any deformation at all, and it still held up really well. So I don't think you'll go wrong with either product. Both really well built, and they are both absolutely phenomenal for what they're designed to do. Very cool. Anyways, guys, leave a comment below. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. I thought about getting the scale out and kind of slamming them down over the scale. The problem with that is I felt if I did that, I might damage my scale with the constant hitting, and I don't want to do that. I think this test was definitely kind of self-explanatory in a way, and hopefully it answered some questions you guys may have had regarding how these things will function and hold up under normal use. I will put links in the description of this video to both of these products if these are something you're interested in. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.